Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. It is a banger episode because LTA officially kicks off. For the first time ever, we're going to see what esports is like in the Americas, and that is this Saturday. I'm very excited about it, and joining me are two very excited people. I know, Cubby, you've been it's been a little dour for you lately on the show, and I'm excited for your enthusiasm to return in this episode. Is that what's going to happen, Cubby?
I mean, we get to talk about the teams and players instead of, all the business side. So I feel like things are going to be a little bit more positive. Yeah. It should be good.
Yeah. It's been a quiet couple of weeks, but I'm pumped to be getting into us talking about stuff. I know you've been working on a power rankings video, right? That Drew's going to start.
Yeah, I got to get that one over to him because I have all the B-roll and I have at least my bullets for the script. I just have to record myself doing it.
Yeah.
And then send it over, which I'm doing after this tonight.
That, my friends, is Travis keeping Cubby accountable for some deliverable or something. That's hilarious. That's literally just like, yeah, I'll do that tonight, Travis. Please don't hurt me.
As part of the plan.
Cubby's also sending me an invoice soon, I believe, for some recent hotline. You were just saying you were going to send me an invoice for the recent Hotline Leagues that I don't think you've sent me since November, right?
Might be a 3-month invoice, Travis. We'll see. We're a week out from that. So.
Hit him with everything you got.
Yeah.
It's not great for tax purposes. We've got it's a very big community episode I could see because first off, it seems like we've got every single person from FlyQuest in the chat. Basil's in there screaming expletives at Raz. Papa Smithy's there. Numi's there. Oh, so you admit she's screaming expletives. FlyQuest is here, who's probably just Park Mom because Park Mom was here earlier and then disappeared. Jack just showed up. It's gonna be a good one. Everybody wants. Why are you turning on the big light? We don't like the big light.
Oh yeah, you know what? I want to hide my bed.
That looks awful. Wait, what is it? Is that a cheek on your closet? I never noticed that because you always use little lights. I didn't know you had a poster that just has a cheek on the side of it.
A cheek? What do you mean a cheek?
What is the poster? What is the poster in the top corner?
Top corner?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all of them are just Studio Ghibli posters.
Okay, maybe I missaw it. I'm gonna go check the VOD. Anyway, Raz is here. Raz, just some anime stuff, it's always cheeks on the anime stuff. Anyway, Raz is here. Raz, welcome back.
Thank you.
Are you pumped for LTA?
Yes. There's a lot happening. So when I came back from Canada, I was like overwhelmed because not only were there multiple changes, not even just, we were all privy to the changes of the formats. And then you started seeing the roster changes come to fruition. And then there's actually just the season changes. Every season, every other region has basically started their games. So there's just a lot to catch up on. But yes, I am very excited. Looking forward to it, especially after they had, a show match into the actual draw for the brackets. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, if anybody missed the show match and the draw show this past weekend, I just go check out the LTA YouTube because I watched it. And while I was watching it next to Mark Zimmerman, and so I might have felt pressured at the time to say positive things, I did actually really like it. And I thought they did a pretty good job with it. The draw show was really fun. A bunch of the players were trash talking. Sven went in on all the different players, I feel like, or they were all going in on him and he was picking fights. They did a little bit of an interview during the draw show, and it was really fun the way they did it. And then they did honestly what I think might be one of the best show matches they've done in a long time, which was Kobe versus Zale, all Noxus stuff, and then they had a player from each team, and I thought the show match was really entertaining. So I would recommend people go watch it. It's pretty close. I don't want to give you any spoilers or anything like that, but pretty fun. The one spoiler I'll give because it's been a little bit, and I want to shout him out and promote him because he's my roommate. Is Kobe did steal a Baron from Inspired, which I don't know if you guys saw that, but it's pretty sick actually. Yeah, and Fudge in chat was immediately dogging on Inspired.
How often has he brought it up? Because if you live with him, surely he must have mentioned it a few times.
But I may have known it as a spoiler before because they played it before they recorded it, and he may have immediately dashed in and talked to me about it. But
okay, perfect.
Yeah, I feel it's the smallest amount of indication for the fact that I have to listen to him angrily play League of Legends on the other side of my wall all the time. But yeah, not one-sided at all. Either way, shout out to NZXT for sponsoring the show. The other thing that I'll be doing after the show tonight is playing Idol Slayer on stream. You guys can check that out by checking out the link in the description. If you're over watching the YouTube, there's also links that are popping up in YouTube and Twitch chat on a bot timer. So go check it out. We'll talk more about it during the sponsor break. But thank you to Idol Slayer NZXT for sponsoring the show. All right. I know, Cubby, we kind of glossed over it, but what have you been up to in the last week?
Not much, honestly. I saw Nosferatu last night, which was good.
I'm sorry.
I'm not a horror fan, and I didn't see 100% of the movie, because I'm not a horror fan, but it was good. It was well shot and well acted, and I actually appreciated that a lot. So, yeah. I think the one fun part about my weekend is that Steve Kangas came over, and we played Advanced Wars 1 and 2 Rebooted on the Switch. He had never played it, and we played it one night, and he was like, "That's so fun, I got to do it again." So, we ended up that was the fun part of my weekend. Besides that, I have a video project that I'm working on when it comes to my own channel, that I'll be ready to talk about soon. But we're trying to get that out before LTA North. And then I ended up doing a VO project for someone else. So I was kind of busy this weekend between those things and then Travis's channel too. So yeah.
It's today was supposed to be it's a holiday for a lot of people, or the day off for a lot of people. But I feel like with LTA kicking off, we're all getting some stuff done, having to do the show and everything, getting to do the show, I should say, but no break for us. It was Nosferatu. Okay, so like, what's the vibe with it? Because I feel like every girl I know that likes fan fiction and RPG games is obsessed with that. Is it like that? Is it?
That's part of the movie, but I didn't walk away with that being like the overarching vibe.
Okay.
By any means, I feel like the internet blew that a little bit up out of proportion. It is supposed to be somewhat a revival of like an old school horror film. So
the one from like a century ago, I think.
Yeah, well, they made the movie back in the 1920s, which I actually learned that it was banned at one point because it was considered too scary, which I found funny.
How is that a thing?
Yeah, so, but they like tried to honor the remake. I didn't like do a ton of reading on this, but that's what I heard. And a lot of the shots did give me vibes of like old black and white, like coloring. They took a lot of the lighting out of the cinematography. So it looks and feels old school at times with like slow camera pans, but the acting was really good. And it was like a well done film. I don't think I'd watch it again just because A, I'm not a horror fan, and B, like horror films just don't stick with me that well. But it was worth the watch, and it was like well done. It was well made.
Did you say that you didn't watch 100% of it?
Well, yeah, I had to cover my eyes for some parts, Raz.
Oh, okay, all right, that's fair. All right.
Yeah,
all the sexual scenes.
I'm mad enough to admit that at least.
Cubby avoids all the nudie scenes.
Yes, those specifically. Also, I finished Skeleton Crew, and that was okay. I just want to. I gave that a couple shout outs. I'm a Star Wars fan. It was good. They didn't fall into the pit hole or like the trap that a lot of Star Wars shows fall into, which is this has to tie to every single piece of overarching lore that we must write because we fucked up the sequel so bad. It was actually decent.
Nice.
It was his own story.
Yeah. I was thinking about watching it, and then Kobe said he watched it, and the first episode was like a bunch of kids being annoying, and so then it has not.
I thought the kids were well written, but yes, it is like the Goonies and Star Wars. So yeah.
Oh really? Okay, yeah. I'm out. I guess I would say that's just not my vibe. Raz, I know you had some unfortunate travel that you had to make recently, but besides the family stuff, has there been anything that you've gotten to do that was fun before? I mean, I don't think we've talked since before even the break, or at least on the
True.
show. So, did you play any fun games or watch anything cool?
So I don't remember much before the travel, but I know after the travel, I actually watched full season of Vinland Saga season 1. Really enjoyed it. I thought Vinland Saga season 1 was great. I actually thought, because it was a 24 episode season, that I thought it was season 1, season 2, because they had an opening change in between. But I was like, no, there's actually a completely different season. So I felt a little better about that, because I didn't like, no spoilers at all, by the way. I'm not spoiling at all. But there was only one complaint that I had, which was like the story and tone shift. But I was like, oh, never mind. There's a new season that I can get into. But I really liked it. Also, I mean, there were Squid Games. That was kind of, I made a tweet about it saying that it was mid, but in reality, it was just, yeah, I'm not going to spoil that one either. It was just uncompleted. That was it. So I just watched shows. I played TFT. That was majority of what I did. Now that I came back, I'm just like getting back into things again. So just watching VODs whenever I can. I will be streaming again soon, probably tomorrow. That was pretty much it.
Nice. Well, glad to hear things have been going well for you guys. I know we've been taking a long time at the beginning of the show, but it was just good to catch up.
Mm-hmm. Anything you want to share, Travis? I know it's been a while, but
True.
Anything fun?
Still jamming Balatro a ton.
Okay.
I think in LA there's a lot of worry that we've got crazy winds again. So
yes,
we'll see how this week goes, but that's something that's been on my mind a little bit. A couple things. One is, if you're listening to this live, or I guess if you want to watch it later, Jake and Joel are Magic, the Magic content creators that I'm friends with. Jake is traveling tomorrow, so I'm going to be live reacting to the reveal of the new set with Joel over on their channel at 9 a.m. Pacific. So if you want to catch that, it'll also go up as a VOD. That'll be fun. But I'll also be at MagicCon Chicago next month for folks that want to hang out or are planning on being there. I think I mentioned in the last episode, but I figure why not shout it again. And the last thing, please go vote on the members only video if you're on YouTube, or the members only video topic if you're on YouTube, because right now there are 2 that are tied. One is my top 5 games that I played in 2024. One is my favorite food in Los Angeles. These are just fun little side videos that I do for just members on the YouTube channel. So please go vote, because I need somebody to break that tie. Either way,
vote for food for sure. Travis has good taste in food. He does.
I do like doing the game stuff. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And there's some fun stuff I can talk about for that. But yes, the food stuff is also really good. Somebody on the members only
game stuff, because I feel like anytime it comes to us talking about single player games, like, God, remember Death Stranding?
Yes.
I feel like one of the only people I can really talk single player games is like you.
Yeah, I know. Everybody else in esports only plays League of Legends, Path of Exile, World of Warcraft.
Yes.
It's like
that's crazy.
They only play 3. You and I are the only people who appreciate like non-multiplayer games, which is disappointing. So anyway, let's talk about League of Legends, specifically the LTA, which kicks off this week. So we now have officially our schedule. Who's playing who, Cubby?
Wow, you're just gonna put me on the spot like that.
I don't want to yap. I'm trying to toss to you sometimes.
Otherwise I'll just I know it's Shopify Rebellion and FlyQuest, and I'll let Raz do the rest.
Sweet. It's Team Liquid versus Dignitas, 100 Thieves versus Disguised, and they're on one side of the bracket. So
those are the Sunday games.
Congratulations, Team Liquid, on making it to the final one. And then there's FlyQuest versus Shopify Rebellion, and then Lion Gaming versus Cloud9.
Yep, and those are on Saturday.
Yeah.
So we'll be kicking off with FlyQuest and Shopify Rebellion on Saturday. It's the one bummer about the new format, and I am excited about like the whole bracket, but normally you kick off LTA, I guess formerly LCS, with like the hype rematch between like 2 top teams or whatever, whoever won finals the previous year. And this year we're kicking off with what will probably be some pretty one-sided games. I mean, we'll see if any of these, if Shopify, Lion, Disguised, or Dig have it. I mean, I think the 100T Disguised game could probably be the most interesting, but it is kind of funny. So, but we'll see. I mean, we have a lot of rosters that stayed the same and a lot of rosters that changed. So I think that will be kind of fun to see.
Also, So this is, maybe me being a fake fan and not being great when it comes to me representing the product. But when the draw show was happening, I may have been watching the LEC that was happening literally at the exact same time because they had a pretty
Yeah.
interesting matchup. So that was a little unfortunate that both were happening.
I
At the
think
same
LEC
time.
had a bunch of delays, and so yeah, it was
They
really
did.
unfortunate. Yeah.
They also had like a 59-minute game. That was disgusting, but it's a real classic.
That was not a good watch. That was not a good watch.
So I only remember after the fact hearing this, and I'm gonna have to look back at the VOD again. Was Lion a pool 1 team? I think they were. I think that was anyways, it was like
I'd have to go back
remember,
and look how they seeded it.
yeah. Papa Smith says yes, because at least when I was listening to pros, the way Sven talked about it was like 100 Thieves was third because they beat Cloud9, and then 100 Thieves lost to Lion or Rainbow Seven. So like that was the idea. I was like, that is because I was most interested in how the format was going to be drawn, just because whenever you come into a new season with new rosters and everything, I'm like, okay, how do you actually do this? Because you don't actually know the strengths of teams. So I guess the idea, the thought process was fair, but there is no planet where Lion is better than Cloud9 and 100 Thieves. So I was like, okay, what? that's fine.
Like if it was, I will say that if 100 Thieves weren't in there, then we could say that it might have been all the partner teams, and they actually have their roster for the start, whereas a couple of them are going to have visas. Like I believe Zazel is going to play, and of course there has been announced for Dignitas, so I might have been able to understand that. But yeah, nice of them to at least give Lion a pool 1 and welcome that in.
Okay.
And at least they drew C9. Probably should be there instead, but
Yeah, no,
true.
it was very funny because they were doing all the draws, and I think C9 was the last ball in the bucket or whatever. And once the moment Sven realized he was playing Lion, he was very excited. So, yeah,
as he should have been.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can talk about the matches now that we have the schedule open. I don't know if there's anything else too much that has happened in the last week. I think we had already talked. We'd already talked about the trailer or LTA trailer that came out, and so that's out there. I think Mark's video was out there. So I think the big thing that happened last week was the draw show and the matchups and everything. So this is the perfect episode, folks, for you to finally start calling in with your takes on who's going to be the strongest team in LTA, your power rankings, the team to look out for, dark horse. That's what we're going to be talking about a lot, I think, on this episode. Go ahead.
Some rosters were announced, and one of those announcement was also just like, what was it? It was like a shade and apology letter that was not written by him. So a few things like that. There are a few things that came out with the roster announcements.
I will say that I think we're going to be starting with this, but SR did have a pretty big announcement where they finally announced Moist and Ludwig.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I will say I've known about that one for a while,
dude. That was like it took them forever to get that going. So
that one.
I don't look. Normally, I hate it when people say that shit because it's like, oh, glad it's finally public now. But I will say that behind the scenes, people knew that deal was like in the works for a while, and there was not really any reporting on it. I think because the deal was not done. It just like languished for months and months and months and months and months. So
oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that part. I heard that like it was confirmed months ago. That like, hey, this is like 90.
I think the deal had not gone through during that time.
Yeah, I just heard it's going to happen. Like, both sides wanted to get it done. So that's good though. I think that's going to be really good for the league to have Ludwig involved in Moist as well.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, should we hop in and grab the first caller?
Yeah, I got it.
Cool. Jack says, I'm a bit disappointed about the BO-Win finals for the LTA kickoff event. Are finals BO1? I thought the finals are BO5. The
finals are BO1 because I think they're seed for the international, or like quote unquote international, when they go to Brazil. And I'm finding this out honestly, like as throughout the day. Not from what I'm hearing, I'm just like going on Leaguepedia and stuff like that, and I'm like, that can't be a right schedule because the finals show 2 best of ones. But I don't know what's going on there.
That is strange. I gotta.
It's
like, it's just a seeding match.
Yeah,
is that because the? Sorry, is the best of one part the part? Are we talking about the best of ones, Are the best of ones
the
happening
end.
in the North America part at the LTA?
I believe they
North
happen at the North America part, and then
Yeah.
it's just to pick the
Okay.
seeds
So I
to
see.
go to
So there's
Brazil.
best of ones before we get to, because
Yeah.
LTA Split 1 is supposed to encompass the Brazil part, right? It's supposed to be like 5
Yeah.
weeks long. So I see what you guys saying. You're saying that the third week, that is a best of one thing to see, because the whole, I think what Riot's positioning is that there's actually, what we are in as a 16 team tournament that is kicking off this weekend, and that the opposite sides of the bracket have Brazil and North America.
Yeah,
So
I can see though the bummer about it being a best of one for seeding, because the odds of getting a good match, like just TL FlyQuest, we got a rematch and then it's a best of one. That's a bit of a bummer. Now, obviously, they could rematch in the bracket later on, but the way that they're setting it up, it's going to be a little bit less likely.
yeah. All right. Well, we have Cloud here. Cloud, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Maryland.
Maryland.
The
What do you
best
want to
state in
talk
America.
about? What do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to talk about Shopify. My take is that Shopify, by the end of this year, will be the biggest team in terms of fandom in the LTA.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh, that is a very hot take. All right, let's hear it.
All right, so as opposed to all the other teams, we actually have content creators that are incentivized to grow the team and not just themselves, and they are experts at already doing so. They are two of the biggest content creators in Ludwig and Moist. They know how to build brand, and they are very good at marketing things. So I think one of my problems with the LTA and like the teams that I've mentioned is like they don't do much in the marketing department. I know, Travis, you talked about this for years. Like teams aren't giving content, like good, meaningful content to build fandom, and sort of just relying on the players that they have. And I think FlyQuest last year did a phenomenal job at that. And I think Shopify are just going to dwarf everyone else, and they're just going to be, in terms of fandom, not competitiveness, just in terms of fandom by the end of this year, they're definitely like pushing to take it to a whole nother level.
Okay, two quick little disagreements here that I'll throw your way. One is, if they're so good at marketing, then why did Charlie not mention the LTA kickoff whenever he was talking about things that his teams are going to be doing in the next couple of weeks? In his announcement video, like I don't think he mentioned that LTA was starting and the team would be doing anything. So I would say we're already off to a rough start on the Charlie front. The other thing is that you said unlike the other teams, they have content creators who are incentivized to like participate. Personally, I feel like Toast is more incentivized to participate in promoting Disguised and all that, because he wants to make sure that the team has like a pretty good standing, if assuming they can stay in the league and that fans want them to stay in the league. But two, I think he has a much more direct like line into the company from a financial perspective and investment than those guys do over on the Moist side. So I kind of feel like if I was to pick any of those three content creators that are attached to the LTA teams now, I feel like Toast is probably the one that is more likely to be invested.
I would agree, especially given what I've seen from Toast at NACL. Like he was really involved at the tier 2 level. So I assume that when the stakes are higher, he will be just as, if not more, involved.
He was he was live streaming his reaction to the draw show.
Yeah, the one thing that like I can kind of give here is that there is the scenario where Disguised isn't guaranteed to be an LTA moving forward, given that they are in the guest spot and not a permanent partner. So no matter how much of a gap that they close in fandom this upcoming year, like it would matter a bit, but they may not be in the league, right? So at least any progress that SR makes, then it should be permanent, right? So I can see that.
Look, here's my counter to all of this. If you go to the Shopify Rebellion's League of Legends Twitter account,
yeah,
they dwarf everyone with 184,000 followers. And that may be because they changed the entire identity of the account. And if you go back like a couple of weeks, it was like Valorant and stuff. But that was something that I found very funny. But I just, to the main point though, I do think if Ludwig and Moist Critical are more involved, they can definitely balloon fandom with this team. This team is already, I think, doing quite well based off the fact that they just have they have Fudge, Contracts, Palafox. Like they have players who are pretty emotive and great in front of a camera. Like they have great players to getting personality out there. And I think people naturally want to be fans of the team for that reason. I think disagree with you, Cloud, only because fans just latch on to winning teams. So Team Liquid, Cloud9, and FlyQuest are just going to have it, not only because Cloud9 and Team Liquid already have that fan base there, and I think they do a great job at reaching out, but because FlyQuest has also had a lot of the positive fan sentiment. I think all three of those teams are established within the league well enough as is and have great fandom that I think it's easy for them to carry over. I think the biggest question for me is between Shopify and Disguised, and if I am to project how I feel like Disguise is going to do, like when they had their league team in, I think it was like their first couple splits in Academy/Challengers, Disguise is pretty frequent at being able to, after a stream, raid the actual players if they're streaming. Those players streamed pretty frequently at that time and like would constantly, I think, invest regularly in getting his players out there to his audience. So I think that pushes me a little bit more in saying that Disguise is going to take a larger opportunity on their players. That being said, that's dependent on how they do. They're probably just going to get blown out. I don't know how that team, even some of the other players are not talking too well about them. So I can think, yeah. So I think
Raz, I did not even notice that. So as you were saying all this, I was looking at the Twitter. I find it really weird that they changed the Moist Esports Twitter account to SRLOL because Moist did not have any League of Legends fans. So they've made the official Twitter account for the League of Legends team a Twitter that has 184,000 followers, that none of which subscribed for any League of Legends content. So I feel like that's going to be really bad.
They stayed for the League of Legends content.
What's that?
They stayed for the League of Legends content.
True.
I
don't know if you know how Twitter works, but
that's gonna be such like a banger resume when like that social media person goes to apply, just being like grew an account to 184K when they just swap the brand.
Just hope they don't ask questions. Just pray they don't ask questions.
So two counterpoints.
Yeah.
One KC did not win last year, and they were still pretty big. So I do think winning is important. I just think that Shopify's in a position to like do it without winning, kind of like Disguise. I do agree with you that Disguise might do a better job than.
Are they bringing in like moist Florida nationalism to the league, or what's going on here?
They're bringing in like Ludwig fans, right? Like if you sign Cadriel to something, right? It's not. I'm just giving an example,
Yeah.
And then I forgot my second counterpoint, but.
I'm blaming Cubby. Why the hell did you cut into him right when he was making his point?
That's on me. One thing I will say, if you are an SR fan or looking to cop some merch or pick something up new, I believe they were selling their jersey for like $20, which is a hell of a deal.
Oh yeah, that was it actually. Like we had one of the best, I consider like best marketing spends of 2025. I know it's early, but like they lost a lot of money on those jerseys. They don't care. Like those $20 jerseys were sold out within an hour. They restocked them. They sold out within another 2 hours. I think it was smart.
So,
oh my god, that's insane. Why did I not hear about that?
Yeah,
I'm looking at it right now.
Of all the things that SR has done, because I think Travis, rightfully so, has been a little bit harder on them in terms of their commitment to just making content and being in the league, especially last year. Of all the things that SR has done, I got to say the jersey fire sale with the announcement has to be the coolest. So for me, it is a good start for this upcoming year. I do agree with Raz, and I think it's also worth bringing up, like, how have we seen fandom shift in LCS in the past? And I can say LCS because it is the past. Like, I thought last year FlyQuest made up a lot of ground, and it feels like FlyQuest have been making up ground in terms of, having more people say that is my favorite team instead of just a team that I enjoy in the league. And I think FlyQuest did pick up a lot of fans. I still think that TL is top dog at the moment, but just knowing the history of LCS, like, I really feel like if C9 has a good year with familiar faces that have hoisted trophies in the past, you're going to really see C9 fandom emerge. Like, there's a lot of history that I think people still want to honor. And so I still put SR behind. I think that it would be a bit of a reach to say that they're going to be the biggest team in LTA North by the end of the year. And they would have to really overperform with their roster to do so, because part of the reason the FlyQuest made up a lot of ground last year is that they put together an appealing team that was not just appealing, they won, right?
Yeah.
So I think that the goal for SR would be to be upper middle half or middle half. And that's something where depending on how they do and what kind of effort they put behind it, I can see as achievable. And Moist and Ludwig, I think, add a very like relatable faces to an org where for me, I didn't know what kind of vibe or like what they were going for last year in terms of what they were trying to sell. I think I have a much better idea of what that is now with these additions, which is a win.
I will come in and say that when Seosh plays, that is something that I would love to see how it interacts with the Brazilian community, because he is by far was the best player support that is in Brazil, and he has a pretty booming fan base. They're excited for him, genuinely, and if he starts playing and those games start to balloon in terms of viewership because of the Brazilian fans wanting to genuinely watch him come back, that is something that, I mean, it's just one thing that I wouldn't have expected. I don't think it gets over Team Liquid, C9, or Fly, but it's a long year. So, but I'm still flatly no, it's not going to happen. But I think they're in a really good spot.
Yeah, I think, okay, to sum up my part of it, like, I hope, I don't want people to think that I don't want this to be successful. Like, more than anything, I'd love for this to be really big, and I'd love for Charlie and Ludwig to both take very active roles in promoting their teams and their LTA side and all this type of stuff. Like, I think that could be really awesome. I think in order for them to become the most popular team, though, I think you have to think, Cloud, that like LTA North viewership is going to double this year, because like I don't see existing fans, a ton of them converting over, right? Maybe some of them will be like, oh, I was an NRG fan and I'm now a big fan of Charlie, so I'll root for his team or something like that. But like, I think that you have to hope that like they're going to bring a massive amount of fans in to watch the LTA. And I mean specifically the LTA, not just like, oh, Ludwig's on, I'll watch his stream. Oh, he's co-streaming LTA. Okay. Like, I think you have to really hope that a lot of these people become fans of the LTA and start watching it, and that we see similar uplifts in like LTA content, not just broadcast or stream stuff, not just co-stream stuff, in order to get to the point where like they have become the most popular team. And I don't know, I'm skeptical.
The more I think about it, maybe I'm being a little uncharitable, because the one statement that I made was like the Skies would be a lot more, I guess, on the ball weekly about getting their branding on their players ahead. But when Ludwig and Moist Critical like owned the other team, forgot what it was called, but it was on their Valorant Challengers side.
Moist.
They like co-streamed it. Oh, it was called Moist.
Mobiles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. He co-streamed it like once in a while, and also he had this whole thing Ludwig did where he's just literally like grinding the game until he got to plat.
Yeah.
So who's to say that he doesn't continue to do that now that he has a team that he's vested in with LCS? So I'm interested. I'll keep my mind open. That could change everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful. I'd love to see LTA like pop the fuck off this year and have a huge part of that be Ludwig and Charlie, and I'd love for the team to become really popular. That would be good for all of us if the league got into a much better place. So I'm hopeful. I can't imagine this happens in 1 year, and I doubt a little bit, Cloud, that Charlie and Ludwig are going to be paying enough attention to the league and promoting it enough for your dream to come true. But is there anything you want to add here at the end, Cloud, before I give you shout outs?
No, just that I can dream. I can dream big.
True.
At least it's a positive. Like things are more positive with us are now, so I think that is a win. Yeah.
Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I got 3 quick shout outs. The first one's to Cubby for his work on the LPL broadcast. I thought he was like the crispest of all the people that were casting. I feel like everyone's kind of a little bit rusty, not to diss on anyone else, but like he was just on point with everything. It was very entertaining watching you on the LPL broadcast. Shout out to Papa Smithy for telling me to go watch Ludwig's stream while I'm on Hotline League. Everyone should be watching Ludwig's stream, but only after.
Yeah, after Papa Smithy's sending fans away, LTA fans away from LTA content. What's he doing?
Yeah, and then my last shout out is my Rec League team, my LBLCS team is looking for a top laner. So if you're interested, hit me up on Discord or Twitter.
Yeah. Very good. Hey, thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, bye.
All right. I think we can grab one more call before we do our first shout out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Shout out. Well, in the short term, let's shout out some folks who have been supporting. Thank you, Mochi Teddy, Kevin, AZ, and Big Angry Hobo for becoming members over on YouTube. You can become a member for as little as $2.99 a month. When you do, you get early access to videos, and you also get some members only videos, which are pretty fun. And then over on Twitch, thank you to everybody who is supporting on Twitch. We took a pretty big hit on subscriber count over the holiday break, and also just since last year when they increased the cost of a sub. So really do appreciate everybody who does sub with primes or otherwise. Speaking of which, thank you to I Am Elvis, Zurathon, Cruella's, Director Donut. We got Penguin Buddy 15, Notorious Bubble, the Eat Dirt. Oh, by the way, I saw somebody subbed with a tier 2. I want to make sure I shout them out. I will make sure that I grab that later, but thank you. It was Tamaine. Thank you, Tamaine. Aerohydrus, Leo the Chosen, EMBW, Numigos, Rars, Kanoke, and Yagron. We got KKG here. KKG, where are you calling from?
From Toronto, Ontario.
Toronto, Ontario. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is basically that, caveat, we say this for like every big team in the league every year, but this feels like the most important year for C9, at least. And for context, I'm calling as like a TSM fan or ex-TSM fan. It really feels like I'm seeing like the same like red flags that I saw on my team before they kind of went under. Just not to the same extent, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Last year kind of felt like the first time that C9 went kind of the entire year without proving people wrong that they like lost the offseason, even though they had that super team and stuff. They kind of really never lived up to expectations. And then I have like a bunch of like quick fire points around like community sentiment. The JoJo situation feels like it was handled poorly, and it feels like they kind of lost on that front, narrative wise. Blabber and Vulcan, their like stocks feel like at an all-time low, especially Vulcan. Like it feels like the community has kind of turned on him in a way, and the Loki pickup has felt like, again from the community standpoint, feels really uninspired. But I will caveat that the new pros episode, Sven did a really good job of providing insight about C9's like process and like at least from his perspective why he liked Loki. But again, like that's such a obscure clip. I don't know if that's really hit the community yet. And yeah, basically my take is like if they are mid this year, like anything less, like mid or less, they are kind of following the same trajectory as TSM and CLG.
When you say trajectory, because obviously both those teams left the league, are you implying that C9 would end up leaving the league in that way, or do you just mean that like TSM and C9 or CLG fell from grace?
More of a fall from grace because I think TSM, the FTX stuff and the Peter Zhang stuff pretty much tanked them, and the CLG stuff I'm not really too sure about them, but I don't think they're going to fall out of the league. But compared to like how much fandom they had like a stranglehold on, I think they're really going to lose a large chunk, if that makes sense. There's obviously going to be like legacy fans, but I feel like they're not going to be like in the level. Like it feels like FlyQuest right now has surpassed them. It might be temporary, but like it feels like FlyQuest TL are kind of the top dogs of the league when it comes to fandom now. And like I would never see that happening, like even like last year, even if that makes sense.
I mean, I will say that I think one of the surprises of last year, because I'm working on the tier list video for Travis's channel, me and everyone else pretty much had NRG and C9, or C9 NRG at 1-2 to start the spring split, given that NRG was coming back defending. C9 had that, JoJo in the roster, the super team that was rumored, and it ended up being TL and FlyQuest that evolved and overcame those teams and ended up being the top 2 teams of all of last year. So, like, I now, don't get me wrong, I have FlyQuest and TL as my top 2 teams for the upcoming year, but that's looking at what I've seen in the past, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? I think that for C9, like, it's interesting to me because in a way, they've mixed some of what has worked in the past by just getting Sven in the building. They've had a lot of success with Vulcan in the building. Of course, Blabber is still around, and even though you said Blabber's stock is low or lower, it feels lower, he was still first team All-Pro jungle, and I thought was really solid actually in summer. Blabber's still a really good player. And then pairing that with the talent that is being imported from LCKCL, Thanatos sticking around. I think he did show some really good mechanics last year. And year 2, like there were some mistakes on the map where I didn't know if it was really language or him just misplaying, because that is a legitimate question with him coming over from the last year as well. So I'm hoping that gets better. And the early scouting report I had on Loki is that he's just an okay laner, but actually has a really good feel for fights, which for me is like, if I'm scouting, I want that, right? I feel like laning is a lot more easily coachable than feeling your way around fights. And it felt like the tape I saw in Loki, he actually had a pretty good intuition on how to play the later stages of the game, which is great. So that being said, I feel like the C9 build is like somewhat promising, but I do think it's one of the first years where it does appear they're outside of being in conversation for top 2, and then top 3 is, I think, arguable with other teams in the league. So do I think it's a do or die split for C9 or their fans? No. But do I think that it's fair to say C9 fans want something more after last year? Yeah, absolutely. And last year's expectation on paper versus this one, it's different. C9 was expected to be a top team last year with the roster that they fielded for both splits. This time around, I don't feel that way. And I'll be interested to see if some of the guys that are used to being in that position almost thrive under having less pressure, the fact they have to prove themselves again, or like if the young guys can kind of step up in these imports and actually be really, really effective. So I don't want to call it like a do or die split or anything for C9, but I do think it's fair to say that this might be, it's one of the splits where the expectation for C9 is lower than what we're used to seeing out of an org that has been at the top of NA for such a long time, right?
Yeah, so one, we should mention that Jack is in the chat right now, and he says, super teams are cursed, I'm done with them, and reaffirms that C9 isn't leaving the league. But I'm like less worried for C9, I think, than you are, Caller, because I think for 2 reasons. One, I do think they've got good players on their team, and I know you're talking about kind of like the fall from grace. I think when you think about TSM and CLG, their fall from grace was in kind of 2 categories, right? It was both in fandom, but also in performance. And while those are linked together, they are not entirely the same. You can have popular teams, I think, that are not always winning, and you can have winning teams that are not very popular. I don't think C9 will potentially be in a rough place in either case. On the popularity front, I think it's really cool for them that they've got Sven back. People do like Blabber, even if he takes a lot of heat on Reddit. I think they've always done a pretty good job of creating compelling content, and their social media is great and stuff, and they just have a lot of legacy fans as well. I mean, they're one of the only teams that if you were a fan of back in the day, you can still root for. So I think on the fandom front, I'm not particularly worried for them. And then I guess you could say that like their only liability on the fandom front is the performance front. I'm not worried there because I do think that like they have a solid lineup, but I also think we're trying to build hype for LTA, but I think this is kind of a weaker split for LTA. I think a lot of teams are rebuilding, or maybe they're running back a roster that they had last year because they're trying to get good again, and try to build that up. I think, look, I firmly think Team Liquid and Fly should be considered the best teams to Cubby's point, but like I think it's pretty reasonable to say C9 is like 3rd. It's hard to look up any of these other lineups and be like, oh yeah, these guys are going to be way better than C9. Like this lineup is going to crush them. And like, you have to get a couple of those before you get to a point where like C9's performance looks really bad, So I just don't, I don't know. I don't tend to worry too much about them. I think they'll have some time to figure their stuff out.
I mean, 100 Thieves went third, and yes, they struggled in both regular seasons, but I think FBI might have been the best pickup of the offseason. I just think his fit in that team is so good. And that team should only get better. So I feel like that's contested with C9. But yeah, Raz, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I disagree with Travis. I actually think that, we already knew the top 3 teams being Cloud9, Team Liquid, FlyQuest, and how good they are. And Cloud9, of course, I guess they took a step back with the Berserker change, but we'll have to see. But like Shopify got significantly better. You're right. I think 100 Thieves got better. I think the pool of teams is a little bit wider, but that's always going to be my feeling when I come into the season. And then you see the games, you're like, oh, got to recontextualize, because I thought Dignitas last split would be different. But My thing is, and by the way, caller, I appreciate you coming with a take that is like hot, scalding. It's good shit. But my God, this take is on crack. And I love the fact that you picked out like community sentiment, because I've always felt like Cloud9 fans in general are the most hyperbolic fan base. Like they've taken the mantle of TSM fans in terms of how much they can go in hyperboles. Because
but they inverted it, right? Where like TSM could
True.
run out garbage, and the TSM subreddit would be like, "This is our fucking year, guys. We believe." You know, whereas
True.
like C9 can run out like a pretty decent team, and they'll be like, "This is dog shit. We lost the off season. Jack is the
Yes.
worst person ever." Blah blah.
Like last Split's regular season, they were second and lost one series and could have been first. Like, yes, they got like bopped out by 100 Thieves and didn't make Worlds. That is a disappointment. No one is saying that isn't. But like, we're talking about the year as a whole. They got third place in spring, and in summer they were believable as a top 2 team for the majority of that split. So like, they are still a really good team, very respectably last split. So I think all the hyperboles people had on like Fudge, and now he has to like kind of build up his name again, even though he's gonna probably come in and be one of like a top 4 top laner and all these things. And then when we talk about their offseason decisions, like if we're comparing them to TSM or CLG during their, you know, downfall in ways, they make sense. At least there'd be times, of course, where you question like the MNS or when Fudge came in for Licorice but then proved them wrong. By the way, they won a championship with MNS when Fudge went mid, and you were like, I don't know about this one, but he did pretty good in that split. Of course, the mid lane pool, that split was poor, but he actually was able to at least prove people that he could play mid for a good amount of time. Perks coming in, but that one, you know, he just came in from bot lane. We already knew he was a legend, but obviously that split was a little bit weird. But like during their off seasons, they take gambits, they take risks. Do I think this team is better than last splits? I do think Berserker was a damn good player, and even though people were starting to be down on him, I was like, this is kind of ridiculous that this is. But once again, this goes back to people's sentiment when they come on Cloud9, because they expect so much. They expected them to be winning championships because they've done it so frequently. So when they don't, they're like, actually, this guy is not as good as he once was. And in fact, there's going to be people that come out and say that they're shit. And I'm like, what the hell? Where is this coming from? So that usually irks me, especially when I see something negative about someone's laning phase and I check out the stats and I check out the games just to be sure that I'm like a sanity check. They're actually doing quite well in lane. But the moment someone is coming out better, like if Impact and Whipple has a great split, then suddenly it's like, oh, now we just called him shit and he's doing well poorly, when that isn't the case. So that was just me ranting on the fans. I'm sorry. I'm just going to throw that out
Raz
there.
started this by saying, I disagree with Travis, and then he's only said things that he agrees with me on.
I only disagree with you on that one part about the teams being weaker.
The overall strength,
yeah, the overall strength thing. So I think they're going to be a top 3 team. I think maybe it depends on 100 Thieves, because they're the wildest team. You can't really predict them. And how Shopify actually plays around, because I think the few pieces that need to get figured out is yes, Zazel's coming back, and I think Seos is better. But also just need to, it's like a good resurgence split for Palafox to prove that he was that guy. All those things need to be figured out, but at the same time, I still think C9 is a great team. So I think these decisions make sense in the confines of what those decisions are. I'm interested in watching Loki, like you mentioned, Cubby.
Yeah.
I think there were definitely better like LCK challenger mid laners, but I think Cloud9 has always prided themselves on being able to build up players who are green. So I expect that to be the same here.
I will say too, like some of the better LCK challengers players, like I don't think Young would have been on the market, because he's someone that I'm actually pretty excited about over in that league. He's really fun and really hype. So yeah.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I guess like the point I was trying to make, because I think performance-wise, like I don't know that much about like league macro and stuff. Like I don't know what in the world an Otacon is right now. I'm waiting for the broadcast to really teach me about that. But I guess like from sentiment-wise, or like from a fan perspective, this feels like the first time that like C9's like flying under the radar. Like even when they like lost the offseason before, it was like such a huge discussion point. I think Raz kind of like touched on this in like his kind of like point, where it feels like there was always kind of like a storyline that C9 was at least in the top like 3 or 4 storylines of the offseason, and it feels like this is the first time they've like flown on the radar, and it feels like something that like Travis talks a lot about in the show, where it's just like what are you as a brand if you're not just winning? And I feel like C9 has done a really good job in the past, but this feels like the first time where they're like mid, and like we don't have like they're not like a hot button topic, if that makes sense. And I think that's where I'm a little bit scared, where I'm just like, oh my god, this is another, like, again, I've been watching this like sport for like 10 years, and it's just like, oh, is this another old guard team that's gonna like fall to the wayside almost?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where my concern's coming from.
Raz, if you think I ever say anything wrong on the show, please say something now. Okay, so I guess he agrees with everything I always say. That's very nice to hear. Okay, KKG, yeah, we lost Raz, but KKG, I understand the concern, I think, for them, and maybe this is a bit of a rebuild year. We'll see, but I just am. There's so much padding at the bottom for the just to before they're considered a TSM or CLG in terms of how far they'll fall. So I'm just like not as worried for them. And I don't know. I'm excited to see. I'm really excited to see Sven back. I'm going to be sad about Berserker, but I'm excited to see Sven back. So anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, 3 things. First and foremost, I'm actually like the podcast version. Like, I'm one of your few Spotify fans, I feel.
Actually, we get a lot. I mean, I think a decent amount of the audience listens on podcasts. So
okay, well, shout out to the podcast viewers. Y'all just call in more.
That's
myself.
great. I have a face for radio, so I'm really glad you listen.
Come on, Cubby. We're not putting ourselves down in 2025. Come on.
Wow.
But I say that to say is that I really, really do appreciate the show that you guys have put on for the past couple of years. Like, it's really like helped me through just a lot of grueling commutes. And it's always something that I can look forward to in the week. And I think to do a show even for a year is hard, and to continue it through esports winter is like really appreciated. I think you've cultivated a really hardcore community, and I think it's something that will sustain for as long as Riot puts out the game League of Legends. And I just really appreciate it for having seen like my own team fall out. I at least had this community to like listen to, and that's been really cool. Second shout out is to I think her name's Carly from FlyQuest. Their new jersey looks super, super sick. I love the amount of effort and like just how good it looks. And the entire FlyQuest team, like that video as well that they posted was just like so cool, and it really made me excited for the upcoming season apart from like anything else. It's just really nice to know that people really still care about the space, and they're getting paid to do the best that they can. And then my third shout out is to my fellow trans and like non-binary people in the US. Today was a really tough day, I'm not gonna lie. But take care of each other. And yeah.
Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
All right. Well, Raz is not here right now, so we're going to take a quick break to talk about NZXT. Thank you so much to NZXT for sponsoring the show. We had our caller just now mention the difficulty in keeping the show going during esports winter, and we are really lucky to have sponsors like NZXT who are sponsoring it. Again, I've mentioned this before, but they are currently our only full year partner, and I really appreciate having them be that. Supporting us is fantastic. Please go check out nzxt.co/Travis. That's where you're going to be able to pick up an NZXT product. Even just checking them out, I think, is helpful. They'll see the traffic coming through and see that people are taking a look at some of their products. Of course, they've got, we've got NVIDIA that just announced the new 5000 series. I'm sure they're going to be getting those builds up as soon as they're available for folks. But you can also see what I'm using right now, which is a NZXT H6 Flow case. It includes a Intel 14900K and a NVIDIA GeForce 4090 powering Hotline League. That's what, literally, as you are listening to this, that's where this is being created, this wonderful NZXT PC that they were able to hook me up with. So thank you so much to NZXT for sponsoring the show. Please stay tuned for more exciting NZXT announcements. We'll talk about those on the show as well. But there's a link in the description over on YouTube if you want to check them out. I think we also try to get those links up on podcasts, but sometimes the podcast platforms don't always allow it. So thanks so much to NZXT for sponsoring the show. And Raz has now moved to a daytime office building.
They've got fiber.
Yeah. My
Unfortunately,
internet went down.
the overlay has not updated. Let me see if I can fix that. Oh, there's another cubby. Oh, there goes the original cubby. We're fixing some technical issues right now, but while we work on that, why don't we get
It's the ASMR cam.
the next caller
Mouthful.
as I fix the
my
overlay.
God. What
All
are you
right, here we
seeing
go.
here? What are you seeing here?
Yeah, we're figuring some stuff out. Okay. All right. There's Raz.
Why did my computer blue screen?
I don't know. Why did you change your background?
Oh, because I needed to go to another PC across the street. That's what happened.
I feel like this is making your hair look very different. It looks like you have a very large haircut, I guess is the best way to describe it. Little 80s-ish. All right. We got Waka here. Waka, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Long Beach, California.
Long Beach, pretty close. I went to school in Long Beach. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I really wanted to talk about Dig and DSG and how that with the upgrade, the coming up from Academy players, Academy, the Challengers League, of like Surdy, XU coming back, and Scary Jerry and DSG. I think that these two rosters have the best chance and will be going into top 4 because of their experience in Fearless Draft, right? Because of this new whole Fearless Draft thing. And that's my complete take.
So
Okay.
one, I just want to call out the fact
one
that
or both.
I think that both of them will have a good chance to hit top 4. It has to be like minimum 1 goes to top 4.
Okay.
So one thing that's been very funny, I don't know if people have picked this up on this, but Disguised has decided that they're just gonna shit talk Dignitas a ton. Like
Well,
even
was it
when I went
Disguised
to
or was it XU? talking about that.
not even just that, but whenever I went to Toast's stream where he was watching the draw afterwards, he was just shit talking Dignitas a ton. So I think maybe it's partially born out of the fact that they have the exact same colors, like they
could be.
and then, but I think it's also that Fifth, who used to run Dignitas and then left, is now at Disguised, and so maybe he's instilled a little bit of rivalry. But I think it is very funny when you brought them both up. I thought you were going to talk about the fact that they've Toast and Disguised, I guess, have decided that Dig is the team that they're going to pick on and like decide to make a name for.
I will say the XU clip was of him like saying that we're pretty much like the same colors, better jersey, like we have Toast. That was probably my favorite part of the show match.
Yeah, dude, they're constantly shit talking them. I think they've shit talked them in other places too, so it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Cubby, this is I think a good take for you. What do you make of the idea that the Fearless Draft knowledge is going to make them successful in Split 1?
Yeah, I do think that Fearless matters a little bit in best of 5s. I don't think it has that big of an impact on best of 3s. So I don't think that you need like innate Fearless experience to really be able to pick up the format. I think that over the few weeks and whatever patches these guys play, they'll figure it out pretty well. For me, the big part about Fearless is that bans stay the same usually, unless you swap sides or want to ban out different things to protect a pick coming in. So you have to get side swap to, swap sides. And then I think the blue side is advantageous on this patch, not just because of how strong some of the B1s are, but it's important to be able to use your good blinds, especially early on in Fearless Draft, because as you move throughout the best of 3 or the best of 5, you're going to lose out on blind picks that are playable for some of the roles. Like it's more likely you're going to have pools narrowed. So I do think that's important too. Those are the two big things I look out for in terms of Fearless. I don't think that Fearless has a super impact until you get to game 4 or 5 of the best of 5. In terms of expectations for these rosters, I do not have as much of an expectation for DSG as I do for Dig. I think that looking past just split one, because split one, Dig's playing with Lyra, and we have no idea what form he's in. I actually have some hope for Dignitas. I really do. I think that Surdy and Shaden as a top side, these guys have solo queue pedigree that not a lot of pro players have, with how often they've been able to hit rank 1, and in Shaden's case, like hold rank 1 or rank 2 at the same time. I believe Surdy's done that as well. Surdy, of course, set LP records and win-loss records on his way to his run. And they've been pretty consistent how high up they've been in solo queue. I actually am very confident that those guys can go up against pretty much anyone in the league and be competitive. I'm in terms of the rest of the rosters, I just have more faith in Dig than DSG. We saw that Tomo is a very serviceable AD. I just think my thing with Dignitas is that everyone in that roster wants to win lane and skirmish, and I don't see anyone in that roster being like an elite team fighter, which is going to be an issue potentially moving forward. So I think that Dignitas will have some growing pains there, but I think it's more likely the Dignitas top 4s than DSG. That said, I am here to fully endorse the DSG trash talk. I don't have much of an expectation for DSG. I think everyone pretty much unanimously has them bottom 2. I have them there as well. My hope is that Scary Jerry improves a lot. I have Scary Jerry closer to a Yawn comparison, where I thought that Yawn was a better laner than a team fighter. That was Scary Jerry originally. He improved a ton last year. I just think that he had to make a lot of improvements in NACL. And when Tomo was in the league, I think they were pretty similar in skill. I gave Tomo a little bit of an edge, but they were the two best ADs we had. I just think that in that role right now, the gap between NACL and LCS to now LTA was a little bit higher than other roles. And Jerry, for me, was really good at drilling lane, being a fantastic laner, and got a lot better in terms of being able to consistently bring that over to fights. But he wasn't like Masu, where like you could just see on the screen that this guy was an elite team fighter, even at the previous level. So I think that Scary Jerry still has to make some more strides there, and improve the way that he did in NACL. So for me, I have him more of like, I hope that he does well enough to prove that DSG should stick with him, and then he should be good, or like improve and get better over time. I just think that he needs a wee bit more time than being right off the bat good. And from the scrim rumors that I've been hearing, and I'm sure Raz has been hearing, DSG have been struggling. So
Do you see them as top? I
yeah.
mean, bottom 2. Do you see them as bottom 2?
I see him as bottom 2, yeah.
Do you have them with Dignitas or Lion?
No, I have him with Lion. I actually have Dig pushing like 6, 5, 4. I think Dig could actually top 4. Not in winter, but if they did so in spring or summer, I would not be shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might have to change my opinion on Dignitas. We'll see. My fear with Dignitas right now, because I have them as bottom 2 with Lion. I'll speak to Dignitas a little bit, because I think the biggest problem that Dignitas had last split is a unison opinion of how to play the game. And a lot of that inconsistency, like individual performances, there is going to be some problems with that. With this team, like, yes, of course, they're going to start with Lyra. That's fine. But my biggest fear is like main communicators on the team. I have confidence that Kaney and Surdy are going to be good in lane. So I think that probably in and of itself should probably push them a little higher. But I have, for these guys, actually, I'm pretty high on the team building aspect. Like, I think Scary is a solid AD carry. I don't think this is a really good AD carry meta, to be honest. I don't think like having an exceptional AD carry to a pretty average AD carry is going to make or break your team. But I do think having a strong support jungle will do that. And Hui's always been very opinionated. Recently, it's been seen more as a negative when he was on NRG, but I think if he's in a right environment, building up like a younger team, and he's working alongside Abadaga, who's been successful with in the past, literally winning a championship. I think that as long as him and Exu, who wants to be active on the map, and I'm pretty high on Mash as a coach. Like, I think this team has a decent structure to start. That's where I'm pretty high on them from that aspect. I think the only thing I will be worried about is like just overall laning with Abadaga and Scary Jerry. Because I think it's fine for Castle to be basically as he was on IMT, just kind of person on his own island, and at least he's gonna have who he can communicate with pretty frequently. And to be honest, like we already know Castle's English is great, so that's not a problem. Communications, I don't think is that gonna be an issue. I just think that I think their team building is good enough to get them over the hump immediately. Where with Dignitas, I just need to see what Shaden, Isles, Tomo as a trio looks like at a high level. And I'm not sure just yet, especially with visas already being an issue. That's just going to push things down the road. So we'll have to see. I will have to see. But I was a question mark, but mostly think them as bottom 3. That being said, to the original take of them pushing top 4, I don't think you've already talked about it, Cubby, that best of 3s really matter when it comes to Fearless. Honestly, my biggest problem with Fearless being introduced in general was that if you're introducing with best of 3s, then you really don't get much data until best of 5s happen, whether people like it or not. And my biggest fear is that by the time you get to the best of 5 margin, people are probably going to get tired of it or have some negative opinions because you'll see the same picks. So it'll probably burn some, interest. But for best of 3s, it's not an issue. I think skill matters more. I think playing lane swaps are probably going to mean a lot more. Pros, Dignitas apparently practice a lot of lane swap based off that conversation, and we're pretty good at it. So I maybe that's a little more boon for Dig, but I think their opponents are too tough, sadly.
I do want to add real quick, Rez, with
Yeah.
Dignitas. Obviously, last split, they had a more experienced roster that didn't view the game the same way. I think that with a younger roster and Rigby being at the helm, for me, he's always struck me as someone that has a very defined way of viewing the game. I think that could really help them moving forward too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see, or I think my one nerve thing when it comes to Dignitas is a lot of the players are really good in solo queue. Like Isles for me is someone who has always been high rank in solo queue, and people have had a high opinion of him because of that. But
Yeah.
in terms of impacting the map in fights, wasn't as good, and I don't think that's Shaden's strength. For me, Shaden plays really well with tempo and knows what to do. But if he doesn't get that, his decision tree isn't quite as good. And I didn't think that Isles was strong in terms of playing map or tempo in the last year, so I'm hoping that that improves with this iteration of Dignitas. But I am concerned they could get just random maps because jungle support doesn't play as well as other duos there.
And that's
so
my biggest fear.
Yeah, I share that sentiment. But yeah, we'll see. I do appreciate how we used to have different reads on Dig. I don't have any hopes for them with Lyra in the roster. But like I said, I think that in spring or summer, for me, Dig is a dark horse, unironically, this year. I have a lot of faith in Sturdy and Shaden. In the past, Dignitas would have never, ever, ever gotten their hands on prospects this good.
Yeah.
These were guys that were on a top 2 NACL team. Sturdy is one of the better prospects that has come out of NACL of late. This guy, the fact that these guys ended up on Dignitas, I think is a really big deal for the org. I think that I hope that Dig uses this chance well, because it is a chance for them to change the narrative on them being, bottom feeders or just not meeting expectations in the LTA now. I really have confidence in these guys in the long haul. So I hope that them and Dignitas can actually pay off on that.
And Papa Smith
You have it
pointed out
wrong,
something.
Cubby.
There you go.
Because you're saying they're going to be good in spring and summer. First off, split 2, split 3. But secondly, they're going to be good in split 1 because this team usually starts. Dignitas has historically started every split looking good, and then
Travis,
they fall off.
I think any Dignitas fan wants it to not look like a typical Dignitas.
No,
year.
but that's what I'm saying.
Anyone's going to break the mold.
Who cares what I don't like? Yeah, Diggs fans have always wanted that, and they always delude themselves. Even last summer, I was bought in on Dig season or whatever, and I don't know why, because I always know that they start good and then fall off. But here's the thing: split 1, it's only start. There's no chance to fall off because it's 5 days. They played twice, and then they go to Brazil, I think, right? Or no, they play 3 times and then they go to Brazil, assuming that they are good enough to go to Brazil. So I think they'll just make it to Brazil because usually they look good. And then, we haven't talked too much about split 1, but split 1 being so short, it's you win 2 best of 5s, or sorry, best of 3s, or you lose 2 best of 3s and you're out.
Yeah, and also Papa Smithy mentioned this because I mentioned the fact that the whole best of 3 versus best of 5. There's only one best of 5, and that's the finals.
Yeah,
there's only one best of 5 for Fearless, so I don't even feel like you ever actually get the true feeling of Fearless until the finals, which and then of course the actual international event when we will actually see what that format looks like. So to the caller's point, I don't think it means anything, sadly. It actually could have. It could have actually. If there was best of fives, then suddenly 100 Thieves is going to be a little tough, right? There's going to be some teams that I think will struggle a little bit just because they pretty much rely on like 2 to 3 champions per role. But in this case, I don't think it's going to mean much. So yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, I think people are not paying attention to how short Split 1 is and how wild things can get based off of just one match going an unexpected direction. So, and I will say, even though I am a Dig hater, I believe in Dig in Split 1 because they will just do some weird shit because they're Dig, you know.
I
Sub or
don't,
not.
because Lyra is playing. I have no idea what form Lyra is in, man. Like we haven't seen Lyra compete in a long time.
He was MVP.
I know he was. Like he had
LCS
some really nice
MVP.
splits. He did, but I just like when you haven't played, the game's changed so much. I don't know. It might be different. So we'll see.
He's gonna be fine. Dig's
This
gonna
guy's
crush
still
it.
Skarner's for sure. Skarner should be permabanned in this format, please.
I've been doing this long enough to know that like everyone will count Dig out in the beginning, and then they'll do good, and then everybody's gonna be like, "Damn, this team is actually sick," and then they'll probably just go to Brazil and suck, you know, or something like that. We'll see.
I mean, if they go to Brazil, I feel like that'd be great, especially given that their first match is against TL, which is tough. So,
all right, Waka. I hopefully we did enough of it. I know we mostly focused on Dig, but hopefully we feel like we addressed your take. Is there anything that you would add before I give you shoutouts?
I think honestly, me not knowing, because I thought there was actually gonna be like a little bit more best of fives. So me knowing it's only one, okay, that just nullifies my take. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I think you guys did really well. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for the call. Anything you
All
want to shout out?
I do want to shout out NZXT for being year long. That's great for you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
And then for second, I want to shout out my city college esports program that I'm in. We're going into the collegiate leagues in like a few days, so that's cool. It's the LBCC or Long Beach City College program. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
And yeah. Anyways,
Best of
thank
luck.
you guys for hosting this. Yeah, we'll be trying.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep.
Cubby, looks like we have some space for some more callers if people want to share
We do.
takes, right? So oftentimes sometimes it gets a little crowded, but looks like we've got some space. So what are you looking for, Cubby? Anything in particular?
No. What about you guys? Do you want to hear anything?
I mean, I think
Ooh.
as is before, continual LTA takes, people giving their predictions for this start. I mean, especially given, we haven't had too many people talking about Split 1. I think a lot of people don't know what's happening in Split 1, if I'm being honest. I did a video that will hopefully come out this week where we get the LTA pros to explain the format. I quiz them on it. Would it surprise you guys to know that a lot of LTA pros don't know how the format
Not at
works
all.
this year?
Not at
but
all.
It is
They
a
didn't
video.
know where South Korea was. Look, at this point, if you just start the sentence with "Would you be surprised to the pros don't know?" and I will just say yes.
Yeah.
I mean no. I will say no. I'm not surprised. That's what I meant.
There was
got something
definitely
on
at least
Fearless.
one team that did not know that there was an event after Brazil. They were like, if you win Brazil, you go to MSI. No, you go to is that it? It's bragging rights.
Well, I mean, let's be fair. Only half the teams need to care about that, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But we have one on Fearless. We have one on the reward system changes to new players, revenue streams. I don't know. If you guys want to pick one, you can. But I'm gonna go grab the next caller.
Okay,
Go for
cool. While Cubby is doing that, thank you so much to let's see, Yagron and Zeeves. Thank you, folks, for the subs. If you're watching live, you can hover your cursor over the stream on Twitch. It'll let you know, a little blue box will pop up, and it'll let you know if you have a free Prime sub. And those are always very much appreciated. We have Seanatonin here. Seanatonin, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Buffalo, New York.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to talk about the Empire tweet that I really agreed with, and it's been something that a lot of my friends have been talking about, that Tier 1 teams should stream a portion of their scrims to the public. And I think this is something that should happen, and I think it would definitely kind of like reignite a little bit of what was so great about like the early seasons of North American League of Legends. So,
Okay, let me ask you. So, whenever you say tier 1 teams, like in what regions?
well, let's just focus on North America for right now. So,
Okay.
tier 1 is in all 8 teams in Latin LTA North, right? Is what I'm thinking about. And then it would definitely, and it could trickle into NACL as well.
God, I know the feeling I had when I was just watching the game in like season 2, and it was like fucking Chowster, Hotshot, all the like they're basically the CLG guys that were just scrimming on stream because there was a lot more of a streaming meta at the time. Everyone was
Yeah.
a personality. So
I mean,
like,
you
that was
needed
a
to stream
thing.
in order to like afford to play. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It was a completely different time. So I know how much value and how much I love that. And when Los Otones and like Ruddy's team is basically doing the same thing, it's great content. I love that shit. I love it. I also don't believe it should happen only because unless if they are just so content driven where they're like, you know, we'll have a night block and we'll dedicate that to a bad team and we will stream that. We don't care. The problem is you're giving up too much information. And if you're like a bad team and you're doing it, you'll feel like you are giving way too much and you're already in an uphill like battle to compete with other teams. And if you're a good team doing it, then you're giving up too much information for the other teams and you have that catch-up effect. So I feel like there's never like a win-win situation of doing so. I would just want players to stream more. There's not that many people doing that in general. I think that would just be great content if like I was all aboard praising Dokla when he was doing that regularly. Blippo does this regularly. Obviously during the season itself it gets a little spotty, but I was like, it's actually happening. But then yeah, I do not expect that to be happening for even 20% of our league when we go into this next split.
let me ask you guys this: how much of the
I gotta go in there. Arsh just said Palafox streams. I follow Palafox's channel. I saw 2 streams. I don't want to hear that. All right, like I love Palafox. You can't say they stream and then I look at my tab and I am, by the way, a permanent stream gremlin. I am looking at the left side of my stream like maybe 80% of the day. All right, I don't want to hear that. So anyway, I'm sorry.
I have a couple different things here. One is I really don't feel comfortable with tier 1 teams and LTA doing that if other regions are not doing it in tier 1, because I feel like at that point in time you're just gifting a lot of your practice and the stuff that you're working on and all this like insight and everything into
Travis, we could say everyone copies NA instead of Korea then.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be better for the region?
Sure. So then I also think, look, the part of the I think there's a big outcry for people to do this because they're like, wow, we're enjoying watching these teams over in Europe do this. And like from what I can tell, these teams are pretty popular because they have like personalities and streamer types and big personality like they're kind of like celebrity teams, right? Like they are. I'm not trying to suggest they're not trying hard. I'm not trying to suggest that they aren't attempting to compete and be good, but they're celebrity teams, and that is why they're streaming. Like I don't know, it is not particularly clear to me that if Shopify Rebellion turned on their stream and started streaming scrims, that people are going to be like, yo, this is sick, I'm tuning in and we're going to do this. I also think people have perhaps a bit of a misunderstanding of what, or a misaligned expectation of what and how interesting these streams are going to be, because like I've seen LTA teams stream, or not stream, scrim, and I've been in the offices when they were doing this, and it's not particularly compelling. I mean, like it's interesting from an academic standpoint, but like it is not like an entertainment product. So I don't actually think that this would be as interesting as people think it is, because I think they are watching these other streams and being like, this is really funny. I honestly, I just preferred if we had like a tier 2 team that had, some popular players that were personalities, and I'd love to see them stream their scrims versus watching an LTA stream scrim.
That's somewhat fair. I know that we talked about Los Ratanos when they started on here, and yeah, I mean, we made the point, right? Like, are those guys trying to win? Yes, but when the assignment is you're gonna stream every single game that you're playing, like, are you actually doing everything in your power to like win? No, because it's content first, right? Um, I for me personally, like I agree, Travis, that I think that the common fan base thinks that this would be a more entertaining product than what it actually would be like. But I'm also like seeing the success of that happen in NLC and just being like, if the whole league signed up to just stream scrims, one day a week, one day a month, like what kind of harm is that when everyone plays on an even playing field? Obviously, not every team would want to do that, but I think that there is a point where, and I've seen this being made by some founders, like there is like the complexity and optic like original founders like just got back in. Like there's some people like that are getting back into esports, and I've seen this a little bit, but we got this started because of our love for this and the fact that we were willing to make everything into content to at least try and get this off the ground and get this going. And when the money came in, we definitely lost some of that sentiment. Even hearing what Raz, talking about season 2 and players just playing in-houses outside of it. I think that there has been a push of late to kind of get back to that. And it hasn't just been in League. It's been in other games. I mean, the two things they just referenced come from COD and COD League. I would not dislike seeing that, even if it wouldn't be a product for me. And I think streaming a day of scrims a week or streaming scrims bi-weekly or monthly, I overall don't think it would hurt. And it would be content that would be good enough where I think fans would like that. The real question is, how much would it be worth for the teams especially if it was less consistent?
Yeah, if it's
So
less
then
consistent,
like,
I don't see it.
Yeah,
it making
then it's
much
like,
of
is
an
it
impact.
actually worth doing this, right?
You build a stream by being consistent and streaming very frequently. So doing it like once a month, every other week, like I just don't.
Yeah,
I don't
also,
think it's
like,
worth it at that point in time.
Also, how much do they share? Like Los Bratanos shares everything. That for me is interesting. Whereas would these products be, would you even be able to hear the players talk? Would you be able to hear the coach's review? Would you see the coach reviewing like his screen, going over what he is going over, his perspective? Probably not. So like for me, those are the really interesting parts of scrims. And when I do get the privilege to join a team with their scrims, that's the kind of stuff that I like to see or look out for. And if they gatekeep that, then again, like how good is the product itself? I'm down for the idea and returning more to the grassroots, but yeah, I don't think this is as much of a slam dunk as some people just think it is.
I want to do a quick fact check on myself because actually, Palafox has been streaming regularly for the past like 2 weeks, like 3 hours basically. And honestly, like Cloud9 has been streaming pretty much regularly during off season. I think people just stream regularly during the off season. It's like more of a question about during the actual season itself. And to the point that you guys are making, I think even just having, though it is a little bit harder for people to just do like duo queue streams because first of all,
they should change that. Yeah,
they should change it.
I'm with you. Yeah,
that'd be great.
Revert
we could
it.
do that. But just kind of like any sort of, like my favorite streams, generally speaking, for League of Legends is whenever you see like Doublift or Pobelter. Right now, they're obviously just duoing because they can. But when players like go into a lobby and they recognize somebody, they just join a call, say fuck it. Well, it's duo queue by the system, or they'll be very interactive with their community. And I think once again, like Dokler does this a lot, but he's not in the league right now, so it is what it is. But I just want to see during the actual season, like after scrims are done, or on your off day, or just anything like that, you're done with LCS for the day, like to be able to just pop up a stream. It doesn't have to be serious. You don't have to be like perma-yapping like Whippo, who provides educational content pretty frequently and doesn't run out of energy at all. But like just something, because although I do like the idea of scrims being public, I think we haven't even scratched the surface of it, which is just people during the season actually scrimming. Streaming. So, yeah, My heart as a fan would say I would love that because I love that content in the past, and I love that content during off season when we see in-houses. If in-houses are a thing, which I very heavily doubt, then great. If not, I just want people to stream.
Papa Smithy says in the chat, worth noting, Riot rules currently don't allow 5v5 scrims to be streamed between two pro orgs.
Oh, the hell?
I think it's been that way for a long time, but it's a bit like of a many years ago, a decade ago, Riot was like, oh, we want to maintain and preserve all top tier competitive matches to just the league, because they felt like that was how you built the league. You didn't want to have all these additional streams going on. You didn't want to have people doing unofficial stuff or whatever. I think that's like a bit of it's a little outdated in the way that like everything went down with the league and with the way streaming works now and how much people care about this type of stuff anyway. So like I think it's a bit dated, and I would imagine it would probably not be that difficult to get Riot to budge on that if the owners went to them and said, look, actually, let me say this. I would be shocked if all the teams went to LTA and said, our players and us want to commit to streaming scrims and like making content and doing all this stuff. I have a hard time imagining Riot would be like, no. I think they'd be like, wait, what? Is this a dream? Or did we wake up in a... What's happening?
It's 2012.
So I'm not too worried about if that would happen or not, but yeah, it is a bit of a different thing. All right. Anyway, Seanatonin, thanks so much for the call. Anything that you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, sure. Just want to say, make sure to, if you like players like Masu and APA and Yeon and Sniper, make sure to go support Tier 2 and Tier 3 whenever they release any news about that, because we have zero about it right now. Go Bills, and as Dash used to say, stay healthy, stay safe, and be good to each other.
Thanks so much for the call. We'll catch you next time. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Not really an official sponsor of Hotline League, but because they were really nice to work with, and I wanted to promote them a little bit. I am doing a stream after this where I'll just be hanging out, answering questions, talking to you all, maybe opening some magic packs while playing Idol Slayer. This is like a bit of a smaller team that has made this game, and so the fact that they reached out to me, I wanted to make sure that they got as much promotion as they could. But Idol Slayer, it's an incremental game with idle and active playstyle mechanics, medieval pixel art, visuals, and retro 8-bit sound and music. You play as a monster slayer trying to keep your people safe from the darkness. They pay you to deal with them, and they will pay you even more if you look good. Start from nothing, jump to get a few coins and upgrade your gear. Now you gain much more than before, which you can use to upgrade your gear even more. The game focuses on giving you a light start with simple mechanics, but it slowly starts adding new gameplay styles, mechanics, and features. And it has 300 plus in-game achievements, ascension system with big skill tree, retro pixel art theme, 6 zones and maps with different enemies, a quest system, offline progress, random events, procedural map, and the decisions that you make are important because they can slow down or speed up your gameplay. So you have to choose wisely or not. Maybe not being wise is the wisest. So either way, please check it out. We'll have it on as kind of an overlay because it is an idle game, which is kind of fun. I haven't played too many of those, but I know a lot of people do enjoy those. And you can check it out on Steam. There's a link. If you do decide to check it out, please use my link so that they know that their investment in sponsoring my stream was worth it. It's over on Twitch and YouTube if you're watching live, but we'll also make sure that's in the YouTube description as well for people who want to check it later. But anyway, thank you so much to Idol Slayer for the sponsorship. All right, let's get into our last call of the night. We might end a little early tonight, but that's fine.
That's crazy. I swear to God, every time I've been here, the actual show has gone on maybe 40 minutes longer.
Yeah, I think it's the fact, just one, off-season was really quiet this year, like the most quiet off-season I've ever had, and ever experienced. And then we've been doing streams for, this is our third show of the year, but not much has changed or happened in the last like
True.
3 weeks. So there's just I think, I think we've had some great calls tonight, and I've liked the last couple of episodes too, but I think, it won't be until probably next week when we really have a whole lot to talk about, or people want
What's gonna happen? It's
Yeah.
gonna happen. This happens every time, and it pisses me off. Like, it's gonna be like 3 days before the league starts, and every team is gonna drop their load of content at the same time. You're like, guys, I can't consume all. Where was this content a week ago? This also includes other, LCS and stuff. But like, everything is gonna drop at the same time. I'm gonna be like, please stop.
Yeah. And I think, we'll have some upset this weekend. People will be like, wow, FlyQuest is washed because they lost. Or they'll be like, wow, actually, Dignitas is goated and Travis was right. Some crazy thing will happen, and then that'll end up being half the show next week. So
True.
I think I'm not surprised it's a little bit of a quieter episode. Looks like we've got Director Donut here. Director Donut, where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Cedric. I'm calling from Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. Good to play Magic with you last month. What do you want to talk about on the show
Yeah,
tonight?
it was really fun. Yeah, so my so my bias up front. I and my wife are both Team Liquid fans, but my take is Impact and TL have a lot to prove in a very short split to regain the hype they had early in summer last year, but failed to live up to. The first match against Dig should be relatively easy, but with things like the Surdy versus Impact matchup, which on pros, Surdy said he thinks he's better than Impact and that he knows his play really well from being in EG Academy under him, and just overall early season jitters, I think there's a lot on the line.
So it sounds like there's more. You think there's more on the line than maybe people think.
Yeah, so I mean, first, from the TL point of view, Impact was MVP, but then he had and he's admitted this at different places, like a pretty underwhelming Worlds performance overall. TL overall, like, didn't live up to the hype that they had hoped, and then the end of playoffs as well with, the rather unfortunate loss to the Minions that we saw live. It was just overall. Earlier on in the year, we were all super excited. They looked good against T1 a couple different times, but it just seemed like they kind of. Some people have said they looked like they stagnated while like FlyQuest just kept getting better. I'm not really sure why they didn't seem like they kept on that upward trajectory. But I think there's that on the line, and then I think from the other perspective, I think Dig has a lot to prove, and like I think a lot of those players are very hungry. Especially, you hear Surdy talk. I would not want to be between him and any objective. Like he's as hungry as you can be to win. And he seems pretty confident, especially based off what they had said about scrims and things. Sounded like maybe their bot lane was having some problems based off what him and Sven were saying, but it sounded like the rest of the map was performing pretty well, at least in the early game.
Question is, who do you think Team Liquid will struggle versus? Because you said that they have a lot to prove. Kind of like, what do you think would prove that level of hype to you? Would they have to win the entire event? Like, what? Basically, like, that's my question to you.
Well, I think, and then part of my take was, it's only a 3-week split in North America, and then they go to Brazil, correct? So like,
yeah,
it's like
you
5 days.
you do not have like time to work stuff out. Like a lot of it is just, do you immediately gel, or like if you're rusty at all, if you have a bad like series, like you lose twice and you either don't go to Brazil, or potentially even worse, you go to Brazil and you lose to a Brazilian team, and that potentially is even more embarrassing than not going at all. So especially for the team that was second and was in finals last summer and didn't make any changes. And you would like to think that a team like that might hit the ground running because they've got that the experience and cohesion as a team. So I think if they end up like struggling or looking worse, at least the community I think is going to have a lot of negative feelings, as I think a lot of the community seems like they've lost a lot of the hype and excitement they had around the team, and seem to think, oh, they've hit their ceiling and are not going to improve any better. So I think there's a community aspect, which potentially means there's a I mean, who knows what the internal dynamics are like? Seems like they've got good relationships, especially. Like, I mean, I love one of my favorite things has been seeing APA and Umpty like joking around back and forth and the memes between them and all that type of stuff. I love. I think their team dynamic, at least from obviously from the outside, but seems really fun and like they get along really well. But and then obviously and something else I didn't even mention, but that they talked about is that Spawn is gonna be spending a lot less time in the States this year, so he can spend more time with his family, which obviously more power to him, and I hope and I love that he gets to do that. But like we will get to see how that dynamic plays out without having him in house for part of the split as much this year.
Yeah.
I think that may play a role as well because he seems like he is like truly the head of the team, which is it seems I think uncommon in esports the way that it is more in traditional sports.
Let me get into your take a little bit, because your take was essentially that Team Liquid basically has a lot to prove after the deflating hype from last split, correct?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Because I think, first of all, look, Impact, MVP Impact, had nothing to do with those finals. I'm not blaming him for those finals. Look, it is what it is, though. International, that's entirely different. That Pain game and a few other games were a bit rough. So, like, I think they lost a little bit of that hype when they went to Worlds, for sure. But I think domestically, they just lost to one team. And I think Impact doesn't really have much to prove, in my opinion. I think it's going to be fun for Surdy and Dignitas. I think the teams going up against Team Liquid and testing them, that's going to be entertaining, and maybe there's going to be something there. But I have all the confidence for Impact as a player and Team Liquid because I think they're on the weakest side of that bracket anyways. Going up against Dig, potentially other 100 Thieves or Disguised, I think they're guaranteed to go to the next stage. In my mind, could be easily wrong, which, I love shit takes. So I love if someone looks at this and clips it. But the question for me is mostly on APA and Umpty, because internationally I felt like that was where most of my question marks are, and I don't think it's going to be challenged domestically. I don't think it's going to be really unless if they go to, of course, against FlyQuest, and I don't necessarily think the Brazilian teams are going to challenge them. I think it's mostly going to be an international thing, and maybe like when it comes to semifinals and finals at like split 2, but I don't think Impact has much to prove here. I'm actually going to be pretty excited to see how he does against like a new crop of talent, and if he continues to be at the top. So, but you are right. Spawn not being there is a pretty big deal. I got to see Swiffer, who's now on the team, and for people that don't know, Swiffer was the head coach of SK when they were quite successful during the regular seasons in LEC. And so now coming and joining this team, and I'm sure he's going to be on stage with Rainover while Spawn is gone. I think that's a really good fill-in. I think think Swiffer has a great command with players, and respect from players. I think they just really strengthened their coaching staff. So I'm only confident when it comes to TL.
Yeah, I don't think this is a trap game for TL by any means. I think that TL was, easily a favorite to get to Brazil, right? I will say the quote about Surdy saying he's better than Impact. Surdy's very confident. Surdy's going to say things that he will believe. Maybe no one else will, but he'll do his best to prove it. I have a lot of faith in Surdy. I think that Surdy is likely going to impress people with this skill level that he's at when he hits LTA North, even with all the hype behind him. I do think that he's going to have pretty defined strengths and weaknesses right now. The project that I'm working on, I've been going through a lot of tape with another former LCS coach, and we've been grading the players. And Surdy actually got a lot higher marks on how he played the map and some of his creativity than I thought, which is a little bit surprising because for me, what makes Surdy such a good laner and such a good player is how rigid and disciplined he is at that form of the game. And I thought that sometimes that hurts him at other points, like fights and roaming. But I feel like like the tape that I went over for him, it's a small sample size because we're doing this for content and not for actual scouting. But it was a lot better than what I thought as someone that's covered Surdy from day one, which is a good sign. I don't think that Dig beats TL, especially with Lyra. I have no hopes for Dig with Lyra. I'm sorry. I don't know what form Lyra is in. I really respected Lyra as a pro player, but that was 5 years ago. 5+ years ago, right? So I cannot believe in Dig with Lyra. And frankly, I don't really care about split 1. I just care about split 2 and moving forward. This is a bit of a novelty split where teams will warm up in a fun format. Definitely how I view it. But I do have a lot of faith in Surdy. I'm glad the caller is too. I share Raz's question of where do they win the rest of the map. So yeah.
That makes sense. And also, I'm just going to continue to glaze Swiffer because.
All right.
I mean, he's in North America now. I used to work with him back in 2015, 2016. I don't remember when that. He's a very, very thoughtful. He was a very thoughtful player. He was like the GOAT in Oceania as a mid laner. I wonder where he's at when he plays solo queue now, because that man's mechanics are really fucking good, and I'm sure he's going to be a big help to just like APA throughout the split as well. He's already really good, by the way, during the regular season. So I just think that was a great acquisition. I'm really happy with the pickup. So I think it's going to be pretty nice. Just wondering how involved Spawn's going to be when he's not there in person, because being remote is always ass when you want to be doing more. So not sure.
Yeah, I am not too worried about them, but I appreciate Director Donut or Cedric that you brought up the Surdy conversation, because I think that is I'm fascinated to see how things go for him. I think that he's been hyped for a long time and that people are excited to see him play. I want to see what Cubby has to say about him in the power rankings video that he'll be doing when he sends me the invoice for the last couple months as well. And so I think it'll be exciting to see that match and kind of get a gauge. I mean, I also am not worried for Team Liquid, but I don't know. I was also just hyping up Dig, so maybe something wild will happen. I don't know. But I appreciate you putting a spotlight on that, because I do think, at the start of the show I was kind of talking about how these are maybe some one-sided matches, and maybe the only one that would be interesting would be 100 and Disguise, but perhaps I've been too low on the Team Liquid Dig match. That might end up being a little bit more fun than I was expecting. So
True.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I like this take was mostly from the TL point of view, but I think looking at it from the Dig point of view, I think is exciting, especially for Surdy, because and he mentioned this, I believe, in pros, but his first matchup is getting to try and prove himself against the reigning MVP. So if he comes out, and even if he just looks good and goes even or something, I think that is kind of a statement of hey, even the MVP, I can at least match up against and not look bad. And as an incoming rookie who's been hyped up for a while, I mean, I think that would be impressive. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how he goes, see how he does. But definitely, I hope TL wins.
I hope so. I mean, my expectations for Surdy is even with the team that he's on, I expect him to be a top 4 top laner, at worst. I think it's gonna be top half of the league in his role. I really do. So I hope that he can have a good start.
And a sleeper is going to be Kaney, because at least from the VODs when I was prepping for
He has some hands.
Rainbow 7. Yeah, he does. He's really mechanically good. And a lot of people will remember the fact that he put Quid in the bin internationally throughout that series. So he is good mechanically. The only thing I ever actually questioned, and this is more of an LLA point, whereas I felt like he just wasn't really working or didn't need to work with his jungler as closely. Odie was his jungler at the time, and Odie was basically running around ganking permanently, and it felt like if he wasn't there, Kaney was just going to make the play anyways. So you may be a little bit too trigger happy. That might be my concern. But if he sees an angle, he'll go for it. So that's talent. I'm interested if that will work out. So
yeah, I have a feeling too that team is just working on mid-game macro drills religiously, just knowing who. Yeah, because Kaney also had some issues of where he was at from what I saw. But no, the guy actually definitely he has hands. So I wasn't exactly sure why Dig won with that pickup, but going through the tape, it makes a little bit more sense to me now. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Director Donut, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
I would like to shout out my wife, who was helping me co-pilot my TFT match I was in when I saw that I got dragged in to the call.
But you're definitely not account sharing. Not account sharing.
No,
where'd you place you on that game?
It looks like we're top 3 right now, so
that's a dub.
Don't even need to talk.
No, yeah, I think
same wavelength.
Yep, exactly. I think we're gonna do all right.
Nice.
And then just shout you guys out. Obviously I'm a big fan and love catching the show. And as I like to do, I'll shout out Raz. I really enjoy him on the broadcast and everything he does. So keep up the good work.
Appreciate you, brother. Much love. And I love your name, by the way. Director Donut is great.
Thanks. All right, guys.
Thanks
Have
so
a good
much.
night.
Yeah.
Yes,
catch you
Oh,
yeah.
later.
sorry.
Have a good one. All right. That is the show. I'm going to be hanging out on stream for a little bit afterwards, so please, everyone, stick around if you're watching live. But let's do a round of shout-outs and plugs. Cubby, what do you got for us?
I'm excited for the league to start this upcoming week. Shout out to everyone out here that continues to help fight and support the Flyers in any way, shape, or form. It's been wild. And yeah, keep an eye out for Travis's channel. We'll have LTA North. I don't really want to call it a split one preview, but just kind of a like this iteration of rosters preview and like what we expect.
Power rankings.
Yeah, some power rankings, and yeah, excited for the split to kick off and for us to actually have some league games to talk about this upcoming week. It'll be fun. So yeah, thanks Raz joining us. Thanks everyone tuning in.
Raz, what do you got for us?
God, yeah, I'd like to thank the community. I say this a lot that like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the community. A, because you guys actually watch the games, but also B, it's always genuinely fun engaging with with fans, with friends, with people, just like talking shit when it comes about the like similar interests. Talking about League of Legends, it's great. Anime, it's great. Like, and the debates that I have regularly with people, like, and the fact checking, all this stuff, it's what I love the most. And so, I mean, obviously, past couple of weeks was shit for me, but coming back and seeing like the love and appreciation from the community instantly was a lot for me. So, love you guys.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. It's always really nice to be here, and we were doing last week. We did the asset days where we go in and get a chance to interview the players and do content with them. I was creating the surprise test stuff, and it's just like it is always difficult during the break in the off season because I start to kind of drift away, and I feel it's tough to sometimes have the motivation to create a lot of content whenever there's just not a lot to talk about and when there's not much going on. And it's so fun to go back to asset day at the beginning of every year and just get hyped again, seeing all the players, experiencing their wild personalities, starting to get excited about, what roster can do what and that type of thing. So I'm just excited to have that be a part of this. So also, again, I will be doing a live stream with Joel over at the Jake and Joel Are Magic YouTube channel tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific for those that care about Magic and want to watch us react to the new set. That is pretty fun. I love it whenever friends of mine who are Magic content creators invite me to create content with them because it's.
Are you talking to
always neat
Joel
to
on
dabble.
Skype specifically?
What's that?
Are you talking to Joel on Skype specifically?
Will it be Skype? I don't know. I would imagine so because I know that's
Okay.
like a pretty modern technology that a lot of people use for various reasons. But thanks Raz for asking me about that. Anyway,
that was a meme. It's an old meme. I thought you would get the meme.
No, I get the meme. I'm just trying to make. I'm trying to counter meme you by pretending as though it's obvious that Skype is something that everyone would use.
Fair enough.
You've been defeated.
Oh
all right.
God.
Oh, there was one other thing I was supposed to mention tonight. What was it? I was gonna bring something up.
Tune into the games. Yeah.
Hey, games. We'll be here next week, and we'll be talking about how things went down in the first week of LTA, which kicks off this weekend. Everybody tune in. You can go find the schedule. It's up on wallesports.com, 1 o'clock Pacific on Saturday and Sunday. We got best of threes. We got fearless. We got all new teams. We got all new league. We got all new stuff. And we'll see you then.
Last thing.
Oh, I was literally doing the hype outro, and now you're.
But maybe I can have a hype outro too.
Well, you've already brought the energy
still on?
down, I think. But
no, this is gonna be a great outro. Shout out to Travis for getting me to work once again on Martin Luther King Day without pay. So like, goodbye, Travis. Have a nice night and take it easy.